Hola amigos y bienvenidos de nuevo. Hoy vamos a hablar sobre estar and subject pronouns. Estar is the very first verb that we get to work with, which is pretty exciting because now we're going to learn how to build our own sentences. So first thing we need to look at are our subject pronouns. In English, these are our subject pronouns here. You have I, you, he, she, it, we, they, and my personal favorite, which is my you plural or y'all. All right, but in Spanish, of course, they go by something different, but we do have some equivalencies. I in Spanish is yo, you, tú, he, él, she, ella. Remember that double L makes that Y sound. My you formal, which is usted. I have we for nosotros, a very fun one to say. We have vosotros, which is you all, or you plural, but we only use it in Spain. So this one, we're only ever going to recognize. We will never personally use it. We will learn the verb that fits there, but we're never going to practice it within our exercises. All right, so we continue. We have they, masculine, and we have they, feminine, ellos y ellas. This is different because obviously in English we have just the they form, no gender-specific portions whatsoever. But we do know that in Spanish, absolutely everything has to match in gender and number. And if this is working for nouns, of course we're going to see this with our subject pronouns too. All right. And then finally we conclude with ustedes, or you all, or you plural. And this is the form that we're going to be using, not the vosotros. All right, so we're actually going to stick with this page for a little bit, as the information on this slide is probably one of the most important in this notes. Okay, so a big thing down here, it says there is no subject pronoun for it. If you notice, we did have it in English, but in Spanish, we do not. It does tell us, though, that él and ella, or he and she, refer to people and sometimes animals, but never things, okay? So let's do a little bit of breaking down for these subject pronouns. My yo, or I. If you're reading a book and in that novel, the character refers to themselves as I do this and I do that, you're reading it from the first person point of view. Okay? So this is important because it works the same in Spanish too. For my tú or my you, we know this as second person point of view. My él, ella, and usted. All three of these in Spanish are going to work like the third person point of view. Okay. Now, here's something equally as important. If you notice, in this column, I, you, he, she, or you formal, every single thing in this column is singular, meaning one person, right? So we're only talking about one person on our left side of our chart. And the reason this is important is because once you learn this chart, we're going to use it all the way through to the highest level of Spanish. So we're going to get really comfortable, but it's important that we understand where our first person point of view is coming into play, along with second person and third person. You might also hear me refer to this as simply first person singular, second person singular, or third person singular. Okay, so that should lead us to believe that this side of the board, not singular, but plural. So we're looking at more than one person. Right. Okay. But you're going to notice there is a pattern to the breakdown. So for nosotros, I'm included. It's we, not just they, but I'm included. So we call this the first person, not singular, but plural point of view. I think my note kind of went off the side there. Okay, for vosotros, this is technically our second person point of view. I'm going to leave it in shorthand since you have the left. And then just like on my left-hand side, the bottom three, ellos, ellas, y ustedes, you guessed it, are for my third person point of view. Okay. Now, something to note here as well is that we do still have the issue with what do we do when we talk about things, right? Because if I have a sentence and I say the pencil is in the backpack, well, my subject there is that pencil. It is a thing. But I already said I can't call it él and I can't call it ella. So what am I going to do instead? Well, in that case, when a thing is the subject, I just have to call it by name. So down here in my third person box, in my singular portion, I'm also going to write singular thing. I'm just going to abbreviate that there. So it's important to note that a singular thing also acts like that third person singular point of view. And that also leads us to believe that a plural thing is what will be on the opposite side. It'll act like that third person point of view. All right, I know that got a little messy, but I think we got it. Okay, so now in English and Spanish, verbs have to be conjugated to match your subject pronoun. This is why we need to get really familiar with those subject pronouns. Okay? Now the good news is that we already do this in English. So for example, I say I run. But notice I can't say he run or she run, right? I actually have to change this verb run to runs. So the good news is that we're already pretty used to doing this in English. We do it in every single sentence that we speak. We have to conjugate verbs in order to make sense. Now we're just going to be learning how to do that in Spanish. What's important to note here, though, is that the verb changed based on the subject pronoun. That means who was the subject in that sentence. Here, it was I. So I conjugate my verb for run. Here, he or she is my verb, and so my subject, so my verb conjugates to runs. All right, and here we go. You see these lists once again. We have the yo, which is, can you remember? It is I. We have tú, which stands for you. We have él, ella, and usted. These are my third person singulars, right? All of them work the same. He for él, she for ella, and usted is my you, remember, formal. And I'm just going to abbreviate that there for formal, okay? And we'll come back to that in just a second. All right, so moving on. We have nosotros, which was my first person plural, which is we. My vosotros, which was my Spain version only, meaning we're not going to use it. So I'm going to put it in a different color here. Y'all in Spain. We just recognize this, right? Okay, then we have ellos, ellas, and ustedes, right? These are my third person plural folks, and those are they, masculine, they, feminine, and then the y'all that we're actually going to work with here. Okay, so do we notice any patterns here? For me, personally, I see some connections between my third person groups. Just like we have él here, ellos is a close derivative from it. That's my they masculine. Ella is my she, and look, to make it plural for they, we simply added s. Now here's something really important to talk about real quick. My usted form is my you formal. I typically have a bunch of students that will get confused here thinking that ustedes is my you all formal. But it's not. Ustedes simply means you all. There's nothing formal, nothing informal about it. Whereas my usted is for my formal. So What's the difference between this you and this you? Well, tú is familiar. This means you would use this when talking to friends or family. People that you know pretty well. Usted is for my formal conversations. You'll use this when speaking to adults, at least ones that you don't know. Teachers. So if you were meeting me for the first time, if you wanted to be respectful, you would use the usted form. And you would also use it for things or people like principals, professionals, etc. Okay, but among your friends, you're going to use tú. Okay. There was one last little thing that we talked about that worked on the other board or the other chart as well, and that was our singular thing or our plural things. And I'm just going to add them down here because, again, they work just the same. So they're going to carry the same verb. Okay. Now, here we get into the fun part, right? We get to finally work with our verbs. So this estoy, yo estoy, is I am, okay? And I guess we'll go into writing that down here in just a minute. But go ahead and follow with me for the rest. You can repeat after me. Again, we have yo estoy, tú estás. We have él, ella, and usted. Está for all three. We have nosotros, estamos, vosotros, estáis. And then we have ellos, ellas, y ustedes. Están, están, y están. Great. All right, so here we get to break them down just a little bit further. So this estoy for my yo form, this means I am. Tú estás is you, can you guess it? Are, good. Él, ella, and usted, está, is, right? He, she, is. We are for nosotros estamos. Vosotros estáis, that would be you all, are as well, but again, we're only recognizing here. And ellos, ellas, y ustedes están, or they or you all, you guessed it, are. All right, and that completes our very first verb chart, right? Again, we're working with estar. It means to be. So we finally get to talk about things that we are or that people are around us. All of our future charts will also be in the exact same pattern and order as this chart here. So it's a pretty good idea to commit it to memory, most especially these subject pronouns, because they will never, ever, ever change. All right, now that we've seen our chart and our subject pronouns and our verbs, it's finally time to start talking about when on earth we use estar. So in Spanish, estar is used to express 4 different concepts. That is location, health, changing mood or condition, and personal opinion in terms of taste or appearance. Now, there's something that each and every one of these concepts have in common, and that is they are all considered temporary. You'll hear me talk about estar being our temporary verb, so it's a pretty good idea to commit that to memory pretty quickly. Temporary, meaning things can change. Location changes. Health definitely changes. Moods, absolutely. And then personal opinion, yeah, I can think one way, you can think different. Estar is temporary. All right, so we're looking at the first one here, which is location. So when I talked about that before, estar is used to describe where something or someone is physically located. So here we have a couple of sentences here. I see my subject pronoun, yo, and the verb that has to match that subject pronoun, which is estoy. Pause with me if you want and see if you can read and understand these following sentences. The first one says, yo estoy en clase, or I am, right, in class. If you're in class right now, well, in 5 minutes, maybe you won't be anymore. Same thing goes on for anywhere else you're at, right? You can always move. The next one says, nosotros estamos en el carro. Or, do we remember? We are in the car. And again, same concept, right? You might not be in 5 more minutes, maybe not even in 5 seconds. The last one here, this takes a bit of following with me. It says, el restaurante está en la ciudad. Okay. Can you guess what a restaurante is? Hopefully. Yeah, it's restaurant, right? And notice here, super, super important, our verb está. Because again, a singular thing works like that third person singular. And if we go back to our chart, that's the he, she, or you formal. So está is our conjugation. So in this sentence, it says the restaurant is in the city. The city. That's what la ciudad is. And when you first look at that, you might think, okay, but that building isn't going to get up and walk anytime soon. And, you're actually probably right. But who's to say that a building can't burn down, or that an owner might move its business to a new location, or you might move houses, or maybe it gets expanded upon. I mean, there are countless possibilities when it comes to buildings. So even though it seems like brick and mortar is permanent, if you're talking about the location, regardless of how permanent it seems, location is always temporary. Okay? All right. So next we're going to look at is our health. Now this one kind of seems obvious, right? We all get the seasonal cold or sniffles or allergies, so of course our health is changing. Pretty easy concept to get. Here we go. If you want to pause the video again, you can try to guess these sentences knowing what we know, or at least the beginnings. This first one we have ella está, or she is, enferma, is my word that means sick. So we're saying she is sick. Obviously, we hope that changes, right? Okay. My next one here, we have los doctores están enfermos. Los doctores están enfermos. These are the doctors are, right? We still see that third person plural verb in there. And then we see enfermos. Now, I'm going to give you a second to think about what the difference or maybe the likeness is between these two words. Okay, you got it figured out? We notice that they're really similar. This enfermos seems to look like enferma. And in fact, it does mean sick as well. But remember when I said that everything must match in gender and number? I really meant it. So here we go. Enferma, it ends with an A because I'm talking about ella. It's an adjective. And adjectives, we're going to learn a lot about them later. But adjectives have to match in gender and number to what they're describing, right? So if I'm talking about a single girl, I'm going to have a single feminine adjective. So I have enferma. But check it out down here. Here, I'm not talking about one doctor. I'm talking about many. Los doctores. And it's masculine. So what I've done here is I've made my adjective masculine, but also plural. Pretty cool stuff. So like I said, gender and number for now and for forever. Okay, so here we go. The last question says, ¿Cómo están ustedes? ¿Cómo están ustedes? And this is what I'm going to ask you guys absolutely every time I see you on a Google Meet or you're walking to our classroom. I'm asking, how are you all? Right? How are you guys? All right, we're down to the second to the last one. Changing mood or condition. We're obviously in high school. Things change on the daily, especially our moods and our conditions. Mine too, as a teacher. So here we go. The first couple sentences here, if you want to try to translate those out, you're more than welcome to. Just hit play whenever you're ready. But here I have la muchacha está contenta. La muchacha está contenta. Now, here's something kind of cool. We're saying a singular thing again, right? Because obviously we see there's an article here, so it is a noun. But la muchacha, even though it's a noun, it translates to girl, right? So I have the girl is Can you take a guess at what contenta is? It is simply content. Yeah, the girl is happy. Next we have estamos felices. So estamos. Careful, I don't see a subject pronoun ahead of it. But was that a mistake, or do you think that's okay? Do you know what estamos means? If you look back at your notes, you'll see that it stands for we are, right? Okay, so check this out. I'm going to do a really quick chart from before. We have yo, tú, él, ella, and then usted, which we can abbreviate by the capital U and lowercase d. But you'll never call it ud, please. Always usted. Then we have nosotros. I'm going to explain on the vosotros right now. We have ellos or ellas, make it like that. And then my ustedes form, which I can abbreviate by the capital U, D, S period. All right, so let's fill in those verbs really quickly. I have for the yo form, I have estoy, I have estás for tú. Remember, these three share that conjugation of está. Nosotros, I have estamos, y ellos, ellas, and ustedes is están. So check it out. Right here, my yo, tú, and nosotros, they have their very own verb, meaning nobody else can use the verb estoy, estás, or estamos unless you're talking about one of these three subjects, right? We can't confuse it with anything else. If I say estoy bien, if I don't include that yo, well, it's okay, because estoy only belongs to myself. So it's understood. Same thing with if I look at you and I say estás bien. I'm saying, are you okay? I can't confuse estás with anybody else but you. And also with nosotros, for estamos bien. Like, we're doing well, it can't belong to anybody else. But if you do take a look at él, ella, and usted, along with ellos, ellas, and ustedes, well, they do share está amongst each other, meaning you have to include the subject pronoun if you're talking about them, because if I simply say está bien, well, maybe you have no idea. Am I talking about he, she, or am I talking about you formally, right? So something that's important, really important to remember, is that yo, tú, and nosotros, these three are unique, right? They mean they don't share it with anybody else, and that means you can use those verbs without those subject pronouns if you want. So be prepared to see that. All right, so continuing on, we have estás enojado. We notice that again, right? It's also unique. We don't have to have the estás tú involved in it. I'm saying, are you mad? And then finally, I have las chicas están cansadas, or the girls are tired. Okay, and that takes us to our very last one. It is personal opinion, which this one always kind of makes me giggle. It says when estar is used with food, the English equivalent is to taste or tastes. And when estar is used with appearance, the English equivalent is look or looks. Okay? So for example, we have la comida está buena. My subject here is la comida, that singular thing. So of course I gotta use that third person singular, está. And I'm saying the food is good. Well, what I think's tasty, you might not think so much, right? So that's a personal opinion in regards to taste. La comida está buena. Versus el pescado está delicioso, or the fish is delicious. Again, you might be like, fish is the grossest thing on the planet. All right, and over here we have ella está hermosa hoy. It means she is beautiful today. And that might be what I think, and then you could look at her and be like, you know what? No, she kind of looks like dirt. Don't say that, that'd be really rude, but you could. And then the second one, we have él está guapo, or he is handsome, good looking, whatever you want to call it. And then that another person might be like, you know what? No, he also looks like dirt. Would also be very rude, but you get my drift. All right, so I hope by the end of this we're feeling pretty good. Remember, those 4 times that we use estar are for location. We have changing mood or condition. We have health, and we have personal opinion. All right, you guys are rock stars. Thanks so much. I will talk to you later. Que tenga un buen día. Adiós.